Hello, dear real writers. Chris here after a very long hiatus. I was focusing on my other channel doing journal with me sessions. I'll put a link to that in the description box if you're interested. I worked on that for about 8 months doing journaling sessions every week with Oracle, mostly Oracle cards. I just find that I like Oracle cards better. I've bought several tarot decks and they just aren't connecting with me. So the search continues for the right tarot deck and the time in which to do it, do some study. One would think that this would be the time, but it isn't. I have landed in another job that is extremely busy and in higher education, and we're working full out to, keep things going. We are by no means in any danger of closing or anything, but you just have to keep pushing to make sure that students are doing okay and faculty are doing okay. And so it's a great place and I'm happy to be there. It's not leaving any brain space or energy for anything else really. So this is actually the first real creative thing I have done during lockdown. So let me just also say, I hope you all are doing well. And someone just slammed the front door of the building. I hope you didn't hear that. But I hope you all are doing well. I know this is a very challenging time. I think most of the world is in lockdown, which is so unusual and strange and inspiring in a way. I feel like there's going to be a big change coming out of this. If you're watching this kind of thing on YouTube, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. That something good has got to come out of this to see how all the systems that are in place are broken and they do not take care of people. They are not about people. They're about greed and money and power, and that is not sustainable. So there's my little soapbox moment. I'll climb down off of that, or my little oracle box moment. So I picked 4 cards today, and the first on the left is Colette Reid's Mystical Shaman Oracle. The second is The Oracle of Mystical Moments by Catrin Welz-Stein. The third is Madame Endora's Fortune Cards. I love that name. Featuring artwork by Christine Filipak. And the last one is the Literary Wiches Oracle. I figured I should focus on that. And that is by, oh gosh, I hope I can pronounce her name properly, Taisia, Kitaiskaia, and Katy Horan does the illustrations. I'll put all that in the description box. But in case I forget, everyone gets credit now. So pick your card. It's interesting that there's this sort of circle feature to each one of these, but they're all very distinct. And I realize that they're a little bland and or dark. That wasn't intentional. These are the decks I was drawn to. So pick your card, starting from the left or right. We'll just go from left to right as 1, 2, 3, 4. But I am going to start with this card, number 3. The Siren. A temptation may lead you astray. Well, I think that you don't really need me to tell you what this card means. First, I should say, I'm sorry, that the question that I asked before I drew these cards was, how can writers navigate this lockdown, or best navigate this lockdown? So let me read you the card, and then I'll give you my thoughts. The siren, you all know this from the Odyssey, but anyway, the siren represents enchantment and dangerous allure. This bewitching water sprite, embodies a mysterious and hypnotic influence. A captivating stimulus may incite foolish risk. Resist temptation, voice your desires. So, how many of you who picked this card are just lying around watching Netflix and eating and spending way too much time on social media or watching the news, waiting for that crack of light of good news and hope, and your emotions are going up and down, as is your weight, mostly up probably if you're doing a lot of snacking, and you're not really taking advantage of this time. Now, that said, the caveat here is yes, people are being furloughed, people are being laid off. I don't mean to minimize that at all. I have myself in the past been furloughed during the last recession. I have almost every job I've had in the last 15 years been in danger of being laid off because of various things, recession, etc., reorganizations. And I've left before that happened. Luckily, I found another job before that happened. So I get it. I get the fact that there might be people out there who are worried about losing their house, or it's an inevitability now that they're going to lose their house, because I did lose my house. And last year I managed a short sale by the skin of my teeth. And it was a mess, and it was exhausting, and it went on for like a year and a half. And it wasn't my fault. It was because of the recession, and I struggled for more than 10 years trying to make it work. So I totally understand. I know people who are experiencing the very bottom of this with unemployment, etc. But that doesn't mean that you can't hope for something better, think something better will happen, and take advantage of this time to do something that would benefit you, whether it's self-care or self-improvement or professional development. There's a lot of resources out there. There are a lot of resources out there now that people are offering for free because of this situation. So you might look around and take advantage of them. So that aside, not minimizing anyone's pain and suffering, and especially if they've had a death in the family due to COVID-19, or there's someone you love in the hospital, not to minimize that at all. But just setting that aside, what are you leaning on that is preventing you from being creative and taking away your energy? Because being creative is something that can support you and be healing. And you might, however small that is, like getting some crayons and coloring. There are a lot of, coloring things you can download off the internet, or you can, next time you run out to the grocery store, grab a coloring book. Excuse me, allergies. On top of all of this, allergies, which make me worried every day. Oh my God, is this tickle in my throat COVID? So, you could draw something. You could, I don't know, you can make poetry cutouts with a book. Go get a book that you hate. And it's fair to hate a book. It's okay. No one's going to judge you. And maybe try to do a poem out of one of those pages, where you you black out all the words except for the words you want to use in your poem, and you pick like 1 or 2 words or 3 words per line in the book. Have you tried that? It's really fun. Or, open a bunch of poetry books and take the first line of one poem in each book and make a poem out of that. It's sort of a mix of cento and exquisite corpse exercise. You can do journaling. Go to my channel and do some journaling. Pick one of the videos and it's a 10-minute journaling exercise. It doesn't take very long. And do as many of those as you need. There are 8 months worth. So you can do them every day. And hopefully by then we'll all be out of lockdown, or easing back into getting back to work and other things. And see what comes out of that. But creativity is a good source of healing. And it'll help you get to know yourself and what you want. This is a good opportunity to figure out what your next step is and what kind of job you might like, and redoing your resume. And it sucks. It's not fair. Totally. 1000% agree with you if that's where you are, that you're angry. You deserve to be angry about it. It's just one of those things that don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, and the world was not prepared for it. It should have been, but it doesn't mean that if we had been, that the response would have been perfect and this wouldn't have happened. So we just don't know. But that's what came up for me. That's more on the serious side. On the other side, if you don't have any of those issues and you are working remotely, first of all, be grateful for that. I'm working remotely, and I'm grateful that I have that opportunity and my job is not in danger. It's nice to feel that for once in one of these situations. Although we will be taking a pay cut. I will be taking a pay cut for the next 6 months. So I will be experiencing that myself. So, yes, we need time to just process our emotions. And I'm not telling you assign yourself deadlines and word counts and all kinds of stuff. This is for everyone, this part. You don't have to do that. But maybe just take out something you've been working on and give it a go. Or if you haven't been reading, read. Or again, you don't have to do any writing. Color or draw or go on YouTube and find some of the dance videos people are doing and just dance around. Do something creative and lighthearted and break up your energy, because these are the amount of time we're spending in lockdown. Whatever you do in lockdown can become a habit. And you want to make sure that you try to have as good habits as you can and, take good care of yourself. Take vitamins, take probiotics. If you have elderberry, that's been shown to be something good. I'm not a doctor, so please don't take things without checking with your doctor. But look around on the internet and see what is right for you and check with your doctor what you're drawn to. Get some exercise, go for walks, do Zoom things with your family if you can and your friends. Do Zoom or Facebook Messenger or however you can do video chats and keep in touch. This is going to pass, and you just want to be sure that you didn't fall into a pit of despair or you developed bad habits that then you have to now work toward breaking. At the same time, you might be interviewing for new jobs or getting back to work and things are really moving fast. So anyway, that's what came up. I didn't mean for it to go on that long, but that seems kind of like a bit of a message for everyone. So let's go to, let's go to number 2. These cards are so lovely. This is Can You Hear Me? Which seems very appropriate. It's like we're all in our own spaces trying to be heard and connect and feeling alone, and it's just also the other thing of not really talking to people every day, unless you're calling people or doing something on video chat or whatever. So let me find Can You Hear Me? Okay. Yeah. Loneliness, cry for help, and communication. And also, you can see that this woman, she's actually a shell. So, lots of metaphors here. So there's a shell. She's in a snail shell, and she's carrying like a horn, like that you would blow. I think of the Ricola commercials, but it's like a horn. And she's floating in water. And water, as we know, is the emotions. A woman floats in a seashell on a big sea. She looks to the horizon as if she is waiting for somebody. She is holding a trumpet in her hand, ready to blow it when the time comes. The ocean symbolizes her feelings. Vast and seemingly unknowable, it surrounds her in an endless arc. She looks lonely and deserted. But she has a way of connecting, a tool for turning passive silence into supportive communication. She just needs to raise her trumpet and call for help. Well, that's pretty perfect. If you pick number 2, that's pretty perfect, isn't it? Yes, it's true. You might feel like you're barely floating over the surface of your emotions, and you feel lots of anxiety and stress and worry and fear, and then maybe some laughter mixed in there, and you just feel like you're losing your mind, right? I mean, it's just bizarre, the range of emotions we're all running through every day, I'm sure. So, but this card is, you're not below the surface, you're not drowning, you're floating, you're doing fine, you're doing great. You're doing great, and you aren't powerless. We are all waiting for answers, for information, for change, and there's nothing on the horizon, as you can see. There's nothing there yet. So we're just in a holding pattern. We're just floating. There's no wind. There's nothing happening. She's not going anywhere. We're just waiting. However, we can still communicate with each other. You can still communicate through your writing. If you are able to write, you can share that on Facebook or social media. Maybe share a poem or a few lines of what you're writing, or maybe something from a book you're reading. Jennifer Ely, who played Lizzie Bennet in the 1995 Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth, is reading. She may have finished by now, but she was reading a chapter from the book Pride and Prejudice on Instagram every day, and it was so wonderful. She's got the most delicious voice, and she's so adorable. She wears these giant owl glasses, and she's just so cute. And it was just so lovely to hear Lizzie Bennet read Pride and Prejudice. And Patrick Stewart is reading he's reading one of Shakespeare's sonnets every day. And musicians are, I'm not a huge fan of Josh Groban or anything, but I did see that he's singing from his shower every day. He's fully clothed. If you're into him, don't get excited. He's fully clothed. Like a lot of people are doing a lot of different things from home to share. And I myself started a virtual poetry readings group for my area. I'm in the Mid-Atlantic. I'm in Maryland, but I know people from all over the country, poets, and I invited a bunch of them. And people are posting audio readings of their poems. It has to be original work. And they're posting audio readings, or they're posting YouTube videos they've made to go with the reading. And it's been really great to hear people's voices and hear them read something. I'm not asking anyone to write anything, although they can. I am saying please post original stuff, because I think that's better than getting a little more creative. But if they don't want to write something, they can just record something they've already written. And it's been really great. And it's a little bit of being creative that you can do without a ton of pressure. And then you can go and listen to other people read their poems. So what can you start with a group of friends? Do you have a critique group? Maybe you guys can do a Zoom together. Encourage each other, support each other, read whatever you have, and, or just get a group together and maybe write together on Zoom. Just say, okay, we're going to write for 10 minutes and see what happens, and do it together. And it doesn't have to be, do it with people you trust so you don't feel pressured to do something amazing. You don't have to do something amazing. It's just a creative act. But, you have a horn, and you can also, this is also that you can call for help. It doesn't mean that you have to do any writing if you don't feel up to it, but if you need connection, then reach out. You may be one of the people that always helps everybody else and is always the person that takes action and the person that people turn to for help. I'm usually that person. I respond to things by action, and I'm always checking on everybody and offering to help. And we're the people that people often don't check on too, because they think, oh, well, they're fine. They're helping everybody else. They must be fine. And that's not always the case. So if you are that person, you might need to reach out to other people and say, hey, I need help. Can we talk today? Can I share something with you that I wrote? Or, call your mom and your dad and ask them to read to you over the phone, if you need a little comfort. Call your nieces and nephews or your grandchildren, depending on how old you are, or even your grown children, and say, can I read to you or something? I bet you they'd love it. So, or ask friends, get a group together and all read to each other. Do something creative that's soothing. But you can reach out. People can hear you. And it may seem like they can't, but they can. So that's enough of that one, I think. Let's go to number 1, because I want to save the literary witches for last. Okay, so the Sweat Lodge in reverse. So I'm going to turn this over so you can see it. The Sweat Lodge. It's a very dramatic image. So remember, this is in reverse. And in this book, in this deck, Colette Reid calls that the medicine. Okay, so there's a general description, and then there's the reversal description. So I'll read the general one. The Sweat Lodge represents the womb of Mother Earth. Volcanic stones are heated in a fire outside, then brought into the lodge and placed in a shallow hole in the center. Participants sit in complete darkness around the red-hot stones to sweat away old habits and beliefs and heal disease. When you return humbly to the womb of the mother, you are offered second chances. Here's the medicine, which is sort of like in reversal or protection for her. Life is offering you a second chance. Take it, since this chance may not come your way again for a while. Mother Earth is calling you into her womb and inviting you to incubate as long as you need to for a spiritual rebirth. Gift yourself time to be with your darkness, your fears, your pain, and your seeds of beautiful potential until you come out the other side free, wise, and full of creativity. These cards are like super on point today. Oh my goodness. So, wow. I don't know what else I can add to that. That's just so perfect. And it's interesting. The sweat lodge is this rounded dome. It looks like the earth. And we're all around the world. We're all in our own little sweat lodges. We're tucked away at home to stay well, to stay healthy, and to keep other people healthy in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And like I said earlier, I think in the Madame Fortuna card with the siren, this is an opportunity to, deal with old habits and old beliefs. Like this is a chance to dig in and look into what you believe, what you value, get rid of material things, take a look at how you've been living your life. And if you have been forced to make a huge change, like you've lost your job, and this may affect your house and your family and everything, yeah, it completely sucks and it's horrible and you deserve to take time to be angry about it. And then it's time to take action. But this card is telling you that it's okay to take time out and to, as it says here, incubate. Sit with the fears and the pain and of these changes and what's happening, whether you still have your job and you're working remotely or you're working in the medical field. And if you are, I should have said this way earlier, thank you so much for all you're doing. Gosh, I cannot even imagine going to work every day. I can't even. That would be terrifying and heartbreaking, and thank you so much for all you're doing. There's no way any of us could ever repay you except to stay home, right? Except to stay home. And make masks if you can, and donate, and look for ways you can help the community, with the medical community in your area with supplies if you're able. But this is a chance to really sit down and look at all of these things, to free yourself from them. And it's sort of like another second forced winter. Even though spring is happening outside, we are all being forced to go through another sort of winter and then a second rebirth, a second spring. And it's great here that it says, gift yourself time to be with, yes, your darkness, your fears, your pain, but it also says your seeds of beautiful potential until you come out the other side free, wise, and full of creativity. So take a look also as a writer, poet, essayist, songwriter, playwright, whatever. Take a look at what you've been producing and what you're working on, and take a good, long, honest look at whether or not this is what you want to do. Is this really the project you want to work on? Is this really the writer you want to be? Have you been successful? Have you been working for years on something that just keeps getting rejected? Time to make a decision. Self-publish it, right? I mean, get the help that you need. Get an editor. As an editor, I have to act responsibly and tell you to please get an editor if you can. It makes a huge difference. Editing and cover design, those are the two things that make a huge difference. Do what you have to do and get it out there so you can move on, or put it aside and move to something else. This also may be the opportunity to go in and finally finish the thing that you said you wanted to work on. If you've been talking about a book for a very long time and you're not doing it, just go in and start working on it. It can be a way to deal with your emotions and your fears and your situation. It can give you the long game view, a better, more aerial perspective, and give you some hope. There is a bird flying here, if you notice. There's a bird flying and there is light. So this is a positive thing. Doesn't mean it's not uncomfortable, because there is heat and sweat and, I'm sure it's discomfort, but you do come out the other side. And we will all be free from this situation. We will. It'll take time, but we will. Okay, so let's go to the last card, number 4. Oh, that's appropriate. That's hilarious. Emily Dickinson, The Soul. Oh my God, that's so hilarious. Oh my goodness. These cards, man. Let me find the book. Okay, those of you who know Emily Dickinson don't really need much explanation here, but I'm going to read it. Spiritual life, the inner world, the unknown. Emily Dickinson spent her whole life in Amherst, Massachusetts. Refusing conventional religion and her prominent family's exhausting social schedule, she instead cultivated a unique spiritual and social life. She wrote long letters to friends, worked in the garden, and created strikingly original poetry about God, death, pain, and love. When Dickinson died, even those closest to her were shocked to find her life's work of 1,800 poems neatly folded in a drawer. So, basically, Emily Dickinson's entire life was quarantine. She was in lockdown pretty much most of her life. And look what a rich, creative, fulfilling life she lived. She lived a completely whole life on her own terms. So if you need a role model for quarantine or for lockdown, depending, I don't want to the term is really lockdown. If you're in quarantine, it's usually because a family member or you has the virus, in which case sending you good thoughts and love and healing vibes. But this is your role model for lockdown. You know, do what you got to do. Write letters. Oh my gosh, it's so fun to get mail. I mean, I've always written letters to several friends, but now mail has become even more important, right? There's only so much screen time you can take. So write letters and garden if you have a yard, or, you know, next time you're at the grocery store, grab a few potted plants for your, you know, for your apartment or your house. I have several plants around here, and it really helps, you know. I have my whole kitchen windowsill is full of cyclamen and kalanchoe and some orchids, and they're all thriving and they're doing wonderfully, and it's just so cheerful. And I have a whole living room window full of plants, and it just really helps. It's a living thing in the room with you if you don't have a pet. And if you do have pets, oh my gosh, lucky you. Give them a kiss for me. Give them a squeeze. But, you know, look for ways to make the most of your space and make the most of this time. So each of these cards, I think, has been giving you that message in its own ways. Make the most of this time. Make the most of the space that you're in. Know that we're going to get out of this and create the optimal environment and the best habits that you can, so that when we are out of this, you can start your life in the way that this new rebirth, in the way that you would like. What do you want to change? What do you never want to do again? You may not be able to never do it again, but how can you, you know, mitigate it or cut back or speak up and say, I need to phase out of doing this at work, or I need help, or I need to tell somebody that they can't do this anymore, and like maybe there are people leaning too much on you and you don't have time for yourself and you feel like you're drowning in the weight of other people's needs. Time to step back and take charge and say, I have needs too. I need time for myself. You need to ask other people to help, whatever it is. Obviously, if you're a caregiver for someone, that's very difficult, but if you're not in a support group, find one so that you can get some help and support for you too. But I know that's not easy. None of these answers are easy. I don't mean to sound like, oh, just do this and everything will be fine. I don't mean that, but I'm just throwing out some ideas that might be helpful to you. But I think this card really says it all. We can have a full, rich life during this lockdown, whatever that means for you. You just have to figure out what that is and, you know, get outside, take walks, get sunshine, and find whatever gives you some hope and brightness and a feeling of purpose every day. Maybe that is just literally cleaning out drawers and closets and throwing things away. I love doing that. I haven't been able to do that, but it's really great. So just, it is possible. And, you know, if you're a spiritual person, this is the perfect time to take up meditation or do yoga every day. I highly recommend Yoga with Adriene. And Adrian is spelled A-D as in dog, R-I-E-N as in Nancy, E, 1-N. She's fabulous. I'm sure you've heard of her if you are a yoga person, probably already doing her videos. But find some sort of thing that you can do every day and see where you are in 30 days. Treat this as some kind of new health kick. Maybe try a cleanse. You're not going anywhere, so you don't have to worry about anything bad happening when you're at work when you have a cleanse, right? So maybe maybe try that, or maybe give up something. Give up smoking, give up sugar, just give it a try. I know it's really hard to give up sugar. I have a shocking amount of ice cream in the freezer right now that is helping me get through this. So I'm not the best person to talk about that, but find your unique way to be you and to support yourself and take care of yourself. Even if you just sit somewhere and are totally quiet for 15 minutes, just build in something supportive for you during the day so that you can have that rich life. And maybe turn to poetry. Poetry is very healing at a time like this, and you can find lots of it on poets.org or Poets and Writers. Trying to think of where else. The Academy, I think the Academy of American Poets is poets.org. The Poetry Foundation, they have lots of poems. You can go to the Poetry Out Loud website, which is the recitation competition for high school students. I used to manage that for the state of Maryland when I was at the Arts Council. The job I left a year or so ago, and there's a random button on that page. You can just hit random, and you just keep getting random poems, and there are thousands of poems there, and it's so great. Just keep hitting random and see what you get. It's really fun, actually. It's kind of a rabbit hole, so give yourself time yourself. Give yourself 10 minutes to do that, and then move on, or you can disappear into that. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to just leave Emily up here as our shining example. And I love how her skirt looks like flames, and it's this wonderful balance of light and dark. And she has, she's holding a black cat, of course, and it's like her familiar, because she's a literary witch, right? So anyway, dear Real Writers, I hope you're well. I'm thinking of you, and that's why I wanted to do this today. I felt like I hadn't done this in too long, and I'm sorry, and I'll try to do some more of these readings. May not be regularly, but I'll do my best. We're in a fucking mess, aren't we? It's just a crazy time, and we just got to ride it out, and there's a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. But in a weird sort of way, it's a privilege to be part of this time and to see, I don't know, it's weird privilege. And it's teaching us a lot about ourselves and each other, and helping us connect with our neighbors and our communities, and seeing that we really are the solution. And so, but reach out to your community if you need help. If you're not on the Nextdoor app, get on the Nextdoor app, or go online and reach out to your neighbors and let them know if you need help. People are really looking for a way to help. And if you're not doing anything and you want to reach out, go on Nextdoor and put out a call to your neighbors and ask how you can help. There are older neighbors that need food and need shopping, and you could even just call them and chat. They would love to probably hear from people and hear from the outside world. They may not have any family. I could go on and on. There's lots of information on the internet about how to reach out to people in your area and help. So better days are ahead, I'm sure. Maybe not by the next time I do this reading. I hope so, but maybe not. But we will figure out a way. I'd love to hear how you're doing, so shout out in the comments. And if you can do some writing, feel free to share some of it in the comments as well. And best wishes, everyone. Happy writing.